Welcome to the Hawks Talk podcast. All things Blackburn Hawks.
In behind the defence, cuts around, scores! Blackburn Hawks win this game 8 goals to 5.
All the latest news, player interviews and much more.
Shoots, scores!
Hawks Talk.
It's time again for another episode of the Hawks Talk podcast. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're back. Sorry for the delay. I finally got over this man flu. I think I've stopped coughing now, so we're good to go. Joining me, as always, is Aidan Wignall. Aidan, how are you?
Doing good, mate. I think I've suffered as well. Other week you could tell at the arena when I was had a sore throat and whatnot. So probably doing the rounds after January and whatnot. What we called it the Billingham flu, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah. So, everyone came back from the cup final with it, didn't they?
So it was just one of them. But no, it's been good, mate. It's good. Like, bit gutted now. The main season's over the league, and there's only a handful of games left. But looking forward to Sheffield. Hopefully we get there as well. But it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to be speaking to this episode's guest fairly soon. But before then, shall we talk about the 35th anniversary game? What were your thoughts on that, Aidan? What did you think of the game? What did you think of those awesome jerseys?
The game itself, we did good, and it's great to get a win in such a thing. All fair to Whitley, they did travel, but they only had very few players, so it swung it our way and didn't really get one of them old school ding dong of a games that we know that we've had with Whitley before now. But the game was good. The lads played well. That we got the win, which is the main thing. But I mean, those jerseys, mate, nobody else in the league's got anything like that. And a big shout out to the volunteers and everybody to do with the Hawks who's got the names on there. Unfortunately, Mr. Lomax said no to us buying our own shirts. So, I even went to Mark and everyone and like, go on, get them on sale. Look at the profit you'd make. But they weren't interested. But, I think they said it takes away the exclusivity of them that bought raffle tickets in the end from there. But, the shirts were smart, and I hope we get something similar next season, at least for a home shirt. It's seeing what the guys have got in the back, in the background going there. I know they're already designing them for next season. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, who knows what's to come. I think you're right about that game as well. I think they only brought 2 lines with them because apparently some other team from that part of the world was in some cup final, I believe. Yeah, the game was what it was. You can only play what's in front of you at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Those jerseys, though, you're right, fantastic. And what a great nod to the past. That old sort of Chicago Blackhawks style jersey, obviously with a massive Blackburn Hawks twist. But very clean, very fresh. And like you said, nice touch getting everyone's name in there, all the volunteers and stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I like the colours as well. Like the white, red, and black. They were good colours. So it was a great touch and a great design. And congratulations to everybody that won one, especially the young lad that won 2 as well. There's me been trying for 3 or 4 years to get one of these limited edition jerseys, and he comes in and wins 2 on the same night. So
yeah, fantastic.
Some people have all the luck.
I think they sold out of raffle tickets. I think it's been the most successful one they've done, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 1,600.
Wow.
They sold 1,600 raffle tickets. So,
that's amazing.
At a fiver each, or at 5 for 20 quid, that's some money for the club as well, isn't it?
No wonder Graham's just been to Dubai then.
That's it. Here's me looking through a weekend in Sheffield, and Only's off to Dubai to sun himself, going up the Burj Khalifa or whatever it's called, So, we're stuck here, mate.
It was nice to see as well that Hawks legend Jimmy Pennycook get an award as well from the Hawks, which was a classy touch, I think, giving him an award in recognition of being inducted into the British Ice Hockey Hall of Fame by no other than Tony Hand. So extra special.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I looked into that, I like looking into Jim's career, I didn't even realise that hockey was such a big thing in like 1978 when he began. And then just looking through all his history and everything, and even having the honour to read out what I did for that. It was absolutely amazing. Such a great guy. I met Jim on a couple of the Blackburn Hawks hockey days as well. So, but it's good to have such a legend in the arena, and you know, bringing up the 35 years, and obviously Tony Hand, a legend in himself.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll talk about our thoughts on the season after we've spoken to this episode's guest. That's coming next.
Hawks Talk.
Well, we've just seen the regular season come to an end and the playoffs are about to begin. So it's only fitting that this episode's guest is none other than head coach of the Blackburn Hawks, Dominic Osman. Dom, how are you?
Yeah, doing well. Doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not so bad, thank you. We normally start off then by talking about the most recent games, but with the regular season coming to an end last week, let's get straight into it and we'll reflect on the season as a whole. How would you say the regular season has been for the Hawks?
I would say it's probably the most successful we've had in a long time, right? So, I've said it before, and you'd have told me 3 years ago that we were going to put up 30 wins this year, in only year three. Everything's on track, right? So, I think when Ollie and I sat down and, we had the first year and then we did a 3-year contract and we looked at it, this was the year that we wanted to, finish top four, right? So top three. Last year was top four. And then, hopefully next year was going to be, challenge for the league and, finishes higher than top three. So, everything is ahead of schedule, to be honest with you, I think, in our view, to be honest. So really in reality, yeah, I'm not going to complain about the season. I mean, we've only lost 6 games, right? So, and also, when you look at Billingham, they've just been unbelievable, all the way through the year. And the only team that's finishing above us is obviously them. And we handed 2 of their losses to them out of their 3. So, what can you say? You know what I mean? You got to give the credit to the boys, and they're doing really, really well. And unfortunately, we didn't start with with the roster that we have now. So I think that we've strengthened throughout the season, and I feel if we had that roster at the beginning of the season, it's a little bit of a different story.
No, I'd agree with that. We've had some fantastic additions at both ends of the sort of experience spectrum, if you will, bringing in the likes of Andy McKinney and Liam Charnock, but also bringing in Liam Hine, Darius Borthoff and Bailey. How important has that been to bring in both sides of that?
Yeah, I'll start with the veteran guys. Obviously guys like Charnock and McKinney, they don't come around often, you know what I mean? It's it just shows that we're attracting the players, but the thing is we're doing things the right way, from the hockey front, and that's for guys to be attracted to want to play hockey, they want to be coming into a good situation, a competitive situation, and that leads us into the younger players. You got guys like Liam Hine and Darius Ballworth. I mean, those guys, at this time of year, they're looking like they've been playing, in this league for a few years now. So it's incredibly important to have those types of players. I always said that we were going to try and build a system where we can stay competitive, but also be able to attract younger players. And the only way that you're going to attract younger players is to allow them a little bit of freedom to be able to, move up and down and things like that. So, it's my firm belief that unfortunately there's just not enough hockey players out there, right? Especially in locally to Blackburn.
Definitely, yeah.
We don't have the advantage that Billingham has. They do have an advantage over that. That all those guys live very close. They've been there for years. Their families are there. They're working there. We've got guys coming from all over the place. We just don't have enough of that in Blackburn. So we have to improvise. We have to find a way to bring in, depth players, but not only depth players. I mean, these guys work their way right up to, they could be on a first, second line on any team. You know what I mean? So they're incredible. They're doing really, really good. I'm really, really proud of that. And I think we're on the right track. I really do.
What do you think of the standard of the league as a whole? Obviously, the additions from the off season, obviously the Leeds Knights have come into it. Do you think that's had a change on things?
I don't necessarily think it's had a change on things. I think it just allows us to be more, the league is allowed to be a little bit more versatile, right? They have a different structure, they have a different meaning in the league. They're a lot like the Nottingham and Sheffield type of thing, and with Notts, with Leeds, with those guys, you know, they've got a really good group of young players coming through. But you look at the junior system, right? And their junior system is packed full of players.
Yeah.
You don't have that luxury, right? So for them to be able to come in at this time, I think it's very good for them, and they're only going to get better. I think that for Leeds to be able to come in and make playoffs the first year out of 10 teams, I think is remarkable.
Yes, fantastic.
And they might not have the experience, and they may be able to add that, but they're still hardworking. They're a good test. They're during the season, it's yeah we go in expecting to win those games, right? And sometimes you go in expecting to win by quite a few goals. But I would say they're the team that you have to show up, because you know that they're going to just work and work and work and work. And if you don't work, they do have enough skill to turn a few of those teams, and that's why they're in the playoffs. And I think that it's brilliant that they came into the league. I don't know how I felt about it before. I don't remember how I felt about it, whether I was for it or against it. The first year coming in, maybe they should have started in the NHL too, this and that. But I'll tell you now, I'm glad they came in the league. I think that they've got a great system going there.
Another thing that's changed this season is obviously the 3 points for a win rule, two for overtime win, etc., etc. Do you think that's had an effect on the league this year?
Honestly, I haven't looked at the math of it, but the maths of it is you look down the win and loss columns.
Yeah, true.
And so I don't feel that we would have been any closer, or I don't really look at points. You don't really look at points unless you are in that title race. And unfortunately, about a month ago, that's when the title race kind of came to an end. When you just kind of realized, those couple games that we dropped at the beginning of the season, we didn't have our full roster, that might have had a difference. It might have been a difference, right? But at the end of the day, I'm not exactly sure, because I think we've only gone into one shootout. I think that was
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Yeah.
I don't think that we've been, it's been straight wins or losses for us. So I think it was only the one shootout win, but I classify it as a win. A win is a win, whether you win an overtime shootout, a regulation, a win is a win. So look, if we were lost the league by 1 point, maybe I'd think differently. But I think it's a good system. I think both systems are good. It's just a matter of what everybody agrees to do.
You mentioned it a little bit there, some of the losses at the start of the season. Is there any of those games in particular you think may have cost us? And is there any that you'd like to take back if you
Well, of
could?
course, all the losses you want to look at, right? And you evaluate them and look at them. I honestly, I feel if we had this roster in Billingham the first game, I think we started on the back foot because of the scheduling conflict, and the fact that we only had one preseason game against an NIHL two team. I think that if we had this full roster, I think that was a game. I think we only lost 2-1 in Billingham, and I feel that we had a very good game against them. I think it was 2-1. I'm sure it was first game of the season.
3-1, I think it was. 3-1, I
3-1.
think.
Yeah, it might have been an empty net goal. I have no idea. It was a close game, but I still feel, maybe we take that game. The Nottingham game, I definitely don't feel we drop. They caught us by surprise. I don't think we necessarily played bad. I think their goalie played amazing. We still put our standard 60 shots on net, but I feel like with that little extra, maybe we picked that one up. So otherwise, hey, wins are wins, losses are losses. We don't really look back. You need to look forward. So,
We've spoken about them a couple of times now, the Billingham Stars. We faced them again in the League Cup final. Personally, probably two of the best games of hockey I've seen at this level. Sadly, not our time this year. Do you want to tell us your thoughts on those games?
yeah, we kind of a couple defensive errors put us on the back foot. In the first game, and I think they came out and they started kind of like we started the year before. We knew it wasn't going to be a blowout. We knew it wasn't going to be easy. I just think that we had a bit of a slower start, and we were behind it the whole time. And then the battle from the guys to be able to even come back that second game. You look at it now and you're thinking to yourself, yeah, it's a loss and it hurt and it overshadows the fact that, you know what, hey, look, we split a weekend with them and we're the only team to beat them in their building. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if anybody really looks at the positives of that, right? So we're the only team to beat them in their building and we were able to pull it back. I do feel that their game-winning goal was a nice goal, but I don't think they should have been on the power play. I think it was a very weak call. That's no offense to the ref because I think the ref called it very equally both ways. But in a tight like playoff type of atmosphere, a guy skating around the net, a guy can't get around him, and there's an interference call, and then all of a sudden the puck's in the back of your net. But again, we had our chances in the beginning, right? So. But we were battling back. I felt like every time we came back within one through the weekend, it felt like we were just going to explode. And then they ended up making a good play or catching a break. And credit to them, it was I think it was an amazing weekend of hockey. Probably the best and most competitive that I've seen at our level.
Yeah, 100%. And what positives can you take from being in back-to-back League Cup finals?
Well, I would say the fact that we've been in back-to-back cup finals in only our third year from where we were when we started. I think before we started this thing the year before, I think we only won about 4 or 5 games, something like that, or I have no idea. That the following year we ended up winning 12 games, and then last year we did what we did and ended up third, and just 1 point behind second. And then this year, obviously, doing what we've done to win 30 games, and only lose 6, it's massive. I think that, we'd be crazy to think that it hasn't been a success. No matter what happens, in playoffs or anything, this year has been a success massively. So
Another thing that's improved quite dramatically this season as well is our goals for. So this season we're rocking 242 with 104 against, and last season it was 162 for and 100 against.
What were we for this year?
242.
And last year we were
162.
Well, I guess that speaks for itself. So, that's great. And the good thing is it's not, we're not all dependent on one guy or two guys, right? And you look up and down the roster on every team, and there's guys that are dependent. There's teams that are dependent on, one or I would say two, maybe 3 scorers. Is where you look at our lineup, and it's spread out all the way through the lineup. I'm not saying that our guys can't do that, but obviously, a few of those teams they play 2-line hockey, right? So those other guys are on the ice a lot more. But again, I think we are extremely offensive. What were our goals against last year?
Goals against was 100, bang on.
And then this year,
104.
104. So yeah, I think that's the same, and I still think that's very little amount of goals. It's got to be up there in the league, right? Against it. So I think that if we tighten up defensively, it just shows if we tighten up defensively, you just don't know. Maybe if we only give up 90, right, then it has an effect on the wins column, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think that we can put many more goals up than 242. I mean, but I think Billingham is probably around the same.
Billingham 260, and then the Barons 220.
Yeah. So I think the numbers all line up there, don't they? But again, we start out with maybe McKinney and Charnes who've put up quite a few numbers in the beginning of the season. That definitely changes, right? So if you look at it that way, then yeah, absolutely. So
I mean, we've got, when you talk about depth, we've got 9 players on over a point a game, and then you've 5 players on nearly double 2 points a game. Fantastic. How
Yeah.
important's that depth been this year, being a free line team essentially?
Yeah, it's a long year, and we hit a bit of an injury. We hit our injury spell twice this year.
Yeah.
It was probably about I don't know, maybe God, a month or two into the season. And then all of a sudden, we went on that ridiculous run where I don't think we lost the game from mid-October until up until just before the the cup.
Mm.
So I think it was ridiculous, like 17-1 or something like that, or 18-1 or something stupid like that. So and then as we got towards the cup, we hit a few more injuries in the beginning, and I'm not taking anything away from Billingham, but we had guys in and out of the lineup because they were hurt. We had knee issues, we had a wrist issue, we had shoulder issues. The guys were in and out of the lineup. I think that we were just starting to get back from that as the cup hit. And that might have set us back a little bit too as well. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to take anything away from Billingham. I think they did a great job. But I think and like you said, it's a 1 goal weekend, right? We end up tying that game or taking that game into overtime, and anything can happen. I mean, you saw what happened last year. So yeah, again, you can sit here and look back all you want, but at the end of the day, look at the results. It's working.
Definitely. Definitely. The regular season's done now. That's in the history books, and we're now in the business end of the season. We've got the quarterfinals to play this weekend against the Nottingham Lions. What are your thoughts going into those games?
Um, it's a new season. That's what we've discussed. The guys realize it. I don't want to jinx anything, but at the moment we're looking pretty healthy, which is a good thing. Coming into it. We're just going to approach it like we do any other game. You take it one game at a time, one period at a time, one shift at a time. Just break it down. 5 minutes a period, and just play well defensively. We've been working on that for the last couple months. Is our D zone and just making sure that we're doing the right things defensively, because we know we can score. We know that will just happen. But if we can find a way to scale back on goals against, just doing the simple things right, not turning back into our zone, making sure we're chipping pucks, taking care of it, taking care of our blue lines, back pressure, making sure that we're back checking hard. Yeah, I think that we stand a very good chance to make it back to the finals.
The educated fans amongst us might know that if you finish in the top 4 of the league, you get home ice advantage, which means you can select which leg you play at home. What decisions go into that? What do you factor in when you're making that decision?
Well, from a hockey player standpoint, this is always kind of a funny subject for me, and I always prefer to play the home leg first, just because the other team has to travel, right? So they essentially have 2 travels in the weekend. Is where if you play the home game first, you only have to travel once to play, but. Um, but my theory was wrong, obviously, with the cup. So I don't I leave that to the board to make the decision on what to do, and the players will respond the way that they need to respond. They're used to doing that, growing up, right? So and most of our guys, especially our older guys, that have been in those situations, are used to that, that home game on the Sunday night or the second night. So when you're actually looking at it, I don't really feel that I have enough evidence to prove that works. That was just a personal thing for me, and I know a couple of the guys feel the same way, but a couple of the other guys might feel differently, the other way around. So I don't think you're ever gonna. It's never gonna be a unanimous decision. Let's just put it that way. There's always going to be, people who think it's an advantage, but then you have to look at the business side of things. And I'm sorry to say it, but if it works better for the business, that's the whole point of home ice advantage and finishing where you are, right? Is so you can choose that. And to be honest with you, if that's what the organization feels, that we might be a little bit more successful as a business part, because there's two legs to this thing. There's the hockey part and then there's the business part, and both of them have to go hand in hand. So obviously if you can get 40, 50, 60 more people in the building on a Sunday night, then obviously you want to play the Saturday away, right? But also you have to deal with ice time at the rinks. So I mean, I think this one, we obviously wanted to play the road game on Saturday, but Nottingham had to move things around. But that's the whole point of home ice advantage. The whole situation and D-side situation where, I think, D-side has the home ice advantage, which is what they wanted to do, is play on Sunday. Now you can't take that away from them. But the fact of the matter is Hull's got, quite a few teams playing out of that building. So if that means they can get ice time at, 10, 11, 12 in the afternoon, then they're going to have to suck it up and travel at 6 in the morning. That's up to them. So, but the thing is, you can't look too much into that stuff. The bottom line is it's down to the guys to perform. It's down to us to coach. No matter what situation you're put in, you need to make sure that you're ready to go in any situation that you're put in.
Definitely. If we get past the Lions, not looking too distantly in the future, but if we do get past the Lions, it's looking very likely that we would play the Solihull Barons again. A tough opposition, another repeat from last year. Is that possible fixture something you're looking forward to?
Well, the whole playoff structure is different than it was last year, right? You only had to play the one series, I think, and then you ended up going to Sheffield. So I think adding another weekend into it, I don't know how that's going to have an effect, right? But it's over 2 games now, right? So that's what we've been preparing for since the Cup. That's what we needed to make sure that we're ready to go and have a fast start, no matter where we start and where we are. So and you want to play the best teams. It makes it feel better at the end of it. You know what I mean? So look, I don't know, how the Solihull Whitley matchups usually go. But we're going to be prepared to play anyone and anywhere at any time. So we're not looking much past knots from the hockey side of things anyway.
One final question then. The structure of the playoffs, like you mentioned, has changed a little bit. What do you think of the playoff format this year? Obviously, with the induction of bringing the South teams up and the whole Steel City Showdown. What do you think about that?
From a league standpoint, I think it's a pretty good thing. I think it's been tough for teams though, because now, when you get into April, the rec teams in the rink start to fire up, and then you still have playoffs going on for the leagues below. And it's hard to get ice time, for teams. So, adding that extra week in does kind of come with a logistical nightmare side of things. But when it comes down to it, the Steel City Showdown, I think, is an awesome idea. You know what I mean? For the league side of things. I think that none of us know who the Southern teams are, so I think both of us, everybody wants to get a piece of that, right? So that makes that Saturday night, if you get there, it makes it all the more worthwhile, right? So to see where the North is to the South, and I think having 2 cups on the line is pretty cool on the weekend, right? So there's 2 championships on the line that weekend. So I haven't really looked past it. I guess if you ask me the question afterwards, after everything's over, then I'll let you know. But I think it's a pretty cool thing, to be honest with you. I think the playoff structure and everything like that is, I think it'll be a success.
Brilliant. Well, thank you again, Dom, for taking the time and coming on Hawks Talk. And best of luck with the playoffs and the rest of the season.
Not a problem. I appreciate it.
Hawks Talk.
Great to hear there from head coach Dominic Osman. Always a pleasure to have him on the podcast. So we've heard from Dom. Let's see what you thought of this season, Aidan. What's been your highlights? What would you change? What do you think going into the playoffs? Let's talk it all.
I mean, the whole season has been a highlight to me. I mean, I think what did we lose 6 games in the whole season?
Yeah.
130. That's amazing for the lads. It's it just shows the hard work, and even in some of the games where they've really dug in to get that win. I mean, I think there's some games where we've been sat scratching our head thinking, how did we win that? Or, come on, lads, we can do better. But the overall performance of each and every player on there has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, I It's been great to watch from the stands on the away games, and it's been great to watch and play the music from the box in the home games. So, there's been something. The young lads for me have been an absolute breath of fresh air as well. When you look at like Bailey Thomas coming in November, for such a young lad, he's bringing such experience. He's like he's been playing it for a lot longer than what he has.
Yeah.
Then there's Heine, got his first goal at weekend as well. What a finish it was. Put it into the bottom corner. I was sat next to his dad as well, and he nearly jumped out of his skin when it went in. So, that was great to see. And then, we've got, young Josh. Unfortunately, his season's come to a bit of a premature end with the injury. I'd have liked to have seen Noah a little bit more. It's a pity he went on that 2-way pretty quick. And then, there's a young lad that's making his way in the national channels as well with Dara. Dara's, he's had a bit of time with Leeds over the last couple of weeks, and what a good guy he is to watch him play. And we always say as well, the most underrated defender in the league, Matty Cross. I always like to give him a shout out. He's come on leaps and bounds. And when we saw him playing Nottingham, I think that 4-0 in Nottingham that day, Ben Keddy were out his skin in net, and Matty Cross were doing so well indeed. I can't complain at all.
Yeah, definitely. Some really solid performances throughout this season from all the lads. Is there anything that's been a particular highlight that you can think of?
Well, the one that happened a couple of weeks ago. Unfortunately, we did go to penalties, but seeing DJ miss that first one, he I don't know if many Hawks fans know, but when me and Graham did a review last year, he decided to fall out with us because we mentioned him missing a penalty. So, it couldn't have been a bit sweeter this weekend. He the other weekend, sorry, made him chew his words a little bit.
What would you change about this season? What's one thing you would change?
I think I'd strengthen the D a bit more for
Okay.
me.
I'd agree with that.
It's trying, we're trying to outscore teams and outshoot teams. The outshooting stuff has been amazing. I don't think we've had many games where we've been less than 40, 50 shots on goal. But for me, I think we need to strengthen up going into next season our defence. Maybe a bit of a concentration at times as well. Sometimes the lads just seem like they were going through the motions, and I know that Ollie and Dom, they're like chalk and cheese in the change room. Ollie brings the passion and Dom brings the tactics and whatnot. So I know that they bring it over. And we've seen the changes from the second period to the third period where they're like the skating. They've had that second period where they're just going through it. And then the third period, they're skating like the life depends on it. So, top shout out to them guys in the changing room for the team talks. But for me, mate, I mean, I don't know if there's any D's out there. I don't know what's going to go on during the summer. But I think they're already talking to people. Hopefully we are, and we can bring it in, strengthen it up, get Polly back in attack as well, and tighten us up a little bit.
Yeah, I do think the D is somewhere that we need to improve, and like you say, players like Matty Cross have stepped up. I mean, last year they paired him up with Bobbs, who's a fantastic leader at the back. And obviously he's been paired with Liam Hine for the majority of this season, which I think's elevated his game.
Yeah.
And it's also given Matty Cross that little bit of leeway to play a bit of an experienced role as well, and working with Paul as well at the back. Like you say, he made the jump back into defence. So quite a versatile player, Lee Pollitt.
Yeah, look, I mean, going back to Heine and Bailey as well, the young lads, they're just starting to cut the teeth, if you will, in the men's league. So for them two, they can only get better, and it brings an exciting prospect as to how good they can actually go. I mean, hopefully in a couple of years' time, we'll be going and watching them in the Elite League, and hopefully seeing the name on them GB shirts as well in going forward.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think just going back to like the season as a whole, for me, I probably shot myself in the foot quite a lot on a few podcasts at the start of the season. I'm sure there'll be some comments in Sheffield about some of the stuff I said. I did think we'd win the league, but Billingham, credit where it's due, they've been fantastic. They've uh, they've deserved that league title. They've been brilliant throughout the whole season, and that I mean that League Cup final, what an example of British hockey at our level. I think they are two of the most competitive games I've ever watched at our level, and I think probably ever will for a while, to be honest.
I mean, the one up in Birmingham, mate, up in the Forum, that was an emotional roller coaster, especially like when they went 1-0 up, and then it just went like 4-4 and 5-4, and we're just them last few seconds trying to get us to get that sixth goal, like just to even take us to overtime. That was a top game up there. It was a good game.
Yeah, definitely.
So, then when you look at, I mean, the guy Ian Brown, over 60 goals, is it? I'm right, aren't there? Is he 66 goals?
Yeah, he's over
Probably
60.
more now. But Ian Brown, when you've got him putting him in up front, and your mate Mr. Average not being in the net, Tom Brown, but Hammond stepped up. The guy he was standing on his heads most games. To be honest with you, I was saying it at weekend. I think there's been a lot of good net minding performances as well. Not to forget our own Ollie and Ben, and then
Yeah, massive.
Zach
Yeah,
Zach from Hull. And then even when Leeds brought Harrison in, you knew when Harrison were in, the performances changed for Leeds, and the goal counts weren't as big. It's like I think he had over 60 shots on him at the arena. He only let four in. So, and then you got Lavs for Solihull. There's just been so many, so many. Like, I want to give a big shout out to Scarlett as well from Sheffield. She stepped in and did a good job as well for them.
yeah, definitely.
Oh.
I mean, that period, she pretty much shut us out, didn't she, when she played at Blackburn the most recent time?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That first period she did, and then I think the lads just switched it up a gear, and I think within the first five or 6 minutes, we scored 4 or 5 goals.
Yeah,
Oh, but it's like you say, we've said it many times. A game of hockey can change within 30 seconds, but
yeah,
uh,
definitely. It's
it's
so
there's I
fast.
mean, there's been some surprise results in the league. I mean, looking at Nottingham, they seem to like start clawing back, and they lost 2 games to Widnes over this last week or so. Um, you know, would anybody at the beginning of the season seen Leeds in that eighth place? So it's been, I think, for the time that I've fought, I think it's been one of the best seasons of hockey that I've seen in a long while.
Yeah, it's been extremely competitive. Such a good standard this season. And one highlight for me, I spoke to Dom about it just previously, but the amount of goals we've scored this season. I mean, in the league
Mm.
alone, goals for 242
Wow,
versus 162 last year.
wow, that's eight. Yeah, that's 80 more goals, isn't it? That.
It's not even as if the amount of games is counted because there's only been four more games. So what's that? 20 goals per those four games?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's been some good scores though. I mean, it's not like when they've scored, they've just sat back and relied on it. They've pushed for more goals.
Yeah.
And I think that there's been shouts from the stands, "We want 10." I don't think that was Mr. Hamilton. But
Getting me
I
in
think
trouble.
so there's things like "We want 10," but the lads have been more than capable of it. And to put another thing forward, when you look at this young lad that's been putting the stats up on the internet on Facebook, he's done a great job, and most of it is all like been one player. But when you look at us, we've got Barnesy and Jacob both in that top five of goal scorers in the league.
Yeah.
So, some teams are relying on the Rotersons, they are relying on the Browns, they're relying on the Vikowskis and whatnot. I think Solihull have got Dan Mulcahy pulling the strings from behind, as well. And unfortunately, what happened with Phil, it would have been nice to see him complete the season. But, when you've got Dan and Otterson at Solihull. You've got Jacob and Barnes doing business here. It's good to see.
Yeah, I
You know,
mentioned it to Dom. We've got, I think, 9 players on over a point a game, and about 4 or 5, maybe no, maybe about 3 of them on more than that, nearly 2 points per game.
yeah, yeah,
Nuts.
it is, it is. And then like Ollie and Ben, with a shot saving average as well. So hopefully tighten up that D and we can get some more clean sheets next season. Hopefully,
Definitely.
um, protect the netties a little bit, give him a little less work to do.
Yeah, definitely. One highlight for me is quite a big one, really, but I think having three forward lines that could be a first line for any team in this league has been. I mean, the goals that I mentioned before, that's the contributing factor, isn't it? Because we've had 3 first lines and we've played 4-line hockey for a lot of this season, which has been pretty good. But
Yeah,
3 lines that are just producing. That's why our goal scoring, like you said and Dom said earlier, it's spread entirely through our roster. I don't think there's not the only player I think that's not scored. I think is Bailey. I think,
I think it
which
is.
I think he's the only player that's not scored for us. I think, which I'm sure is coming. Hopefully, I'll get one in the playoffs just to
He's
shut
had
me
a few. He will. He'll do that now just to shut you up.
up.
Winning goal in final, Bailey Thomas. There's no pressure at all, young lad. So yeah, winning goal in final would be nice for Bailey to open his account for us. But
Yeah,
let's just wait and see. Hopefully, I just hope everybody can stay fit and healthy all the way through the playoffs. And if we do make it to the final, we can all have a good day out.
yeah, definitely. Speaking of the playoffs, then, what are your thoughts going into that?
I've just touched on it there that Nottingham just seem to be having a slump at the minute. I'm sure Dylan will be listening to us and hopefully see him on Saturday. But yeah, it's Nottingham have had a big slump, losing against Widnes and whatnot. They seem to be on the up. They seem to be giving beating D side and they even run us close when we went there. We had a good start and then we switched off and let them back in. There again, 7. Well, 8 weeks later than 7:10. I think it was about 7:20 when we faced off in Nottingham the last time. So it is late. Saturday, 5:10. So hopefully everyone will be a bit more awake, a bit more refreshed, and take the game to them. Hopefully we can do the job there. Then the lads can relax a little bit in the arena. And enjoy themselves a little bit more. So I hope we can do that. I can't see us losing. I can't see us losing.
No, I agree. We've
Hopefully I'm
said it
booking.
now.
I know, man. I know. Hopefully I'm booking that coach on Monday morning. The way that Whitley have just sort of like crumbled as well. Yeah, that won't be anybody else's but Solihull's. It shouldn't be anybody else's but Solihull's.
Yeah,
Billingham again. I don't know. Leeds took them close. Leeds taken close in first period of all the games, aren't they? And then Billingham should be through that. The big one's Hull and D side for me. That's gonna be one heck of a slobber knocker, shall we call it?
yeah.
So
That fourth and fifth game's always really close because they're in that position in the league together usually, and that because our league tends to split into sort of 3 parts, doesn't it? Like your title contenders, your middle pack, and then your sort of basement dwellers, done it? And
yeah.
them two are definitely in that sort of mid-table battle. So yeah, I think that's going to be the one to watch, isn't it?
I think it is. I think it is. So we'll see how it goes. And then Monday morning we'll all be a little bit clearer as to where we're going to be in next weekend.
Yeah,
So we're going. Is it called Keepmoat where they play?
Hobbs-Moat Road.
Hobbs-Moat. I knew it was Keepmoat's football ground, isn't it? So yeah, Hobbs. I think it'll be Hobbs-Moat. Just avoid that chippy after the game.
I think we've definitely got the beating of Nottingham. If I had the choice between them or Whitley, because I think we spoke about that last time, I'd rather have taken Whitley. Just with obviously, we'll not touch on that. What's going on there? A bit controversial. not great either. But
no, a bit naughty,
I'd have rather have played Whitley than Nottingham, because Nottingham are capable of scoring and capable of running us quite close. But I do think we've definitely got the beating of them, and it, like you said earlier, it looks like it's going to be a sort of repeat of last year, playing the Barons, a little bit different over two legs. Obviously, like, Hobbs Motor Road is a difficult place to go. It's not a nice rink. That's my opinion. Nobody else's. I'm sure I'm not the only one though. But
you know that even though, like, when we were walking out, some of the fans that were talking to us like, have a safe journey home. But even the fans themselves make it a bit of a place to go. You know, they give it a bit of an atmosphere, and
character.
Yeah, it is. But them that stand on the corner and that, I think Mr. McKinney said he get an elbow or two off the fans. But I think overall you've not even got the glass, have you, to bounce the puck off, and it's not the best of places to go. But we've won there a couple of times over the last 2 seasons, so
yeah,
and the boys will find that. I'm sure they'll find that extra gear to get us through.
Definitely. Right, well, that's all we've got time for on this episode of Hawks Talk. We'll see if we can get another episode in just after the Nottingham game, just a little catch up as we head in towards the Solihull game, potentially the Solihull game.
Yeah, before we go off.
Myself.
Yeah, just before we go off as well, can I just give a massive shout out to all the volunteers that have done
100%
done stuff this year? We've had like Cherry and Debs on the merchandise table. We've had the guys doing the penalty boxes like Steve, John Connell, Mr. I can't remember his surname now, but we've had them on there. Mrs. Riddick doing the running, the guys doing the goal judges, the guy, the A team in the box, me, Lance, and Gareth.
A-team.
Bright, the A-team, mate. That's what we call ourselves, the A-team. I won't tell you what A stands for, but it's not good. And even Brian and Rowan doing the lights as well.
Yeah, definitely.
From there, Shauna doing the match night lives, keeping us all up to speed and everything. I think we've all been like sat there refreshing our phones and waiting for a speedy fingers to update us all. So there's so much going on, and there's so many people around there that make the games happen that aren't even seen by the fans. I just want to give them guys a massive, massive shout out and just thank them all for giving up their time, just so that we can watch these games of hockey, we can sit, do the podcast, and talk about it. And discussions over the Facebook, discussions via personal groups. There's so much there, and Blackburn Hawks is a massive part of everybody's lives, I think, now.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with everything you've said there. 100%. Right, well, brilliant. Thank you for listening, guys. Don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And if you want to get in touch, you can send me an email, hawkstalk@blackburnhawks.com. See you next time.
See you later, everybody.
Hawks Talk.